How do you think going to the gym and like fitness has changed your life in terms of like your self-concept, your relationships, and like other aspects of development that people wouldn't normally associate with like going to the gym? Because most people just think of the gym as like building muscle, getting healthy. But like what are some unobvious transformations that have happened for you as a part of going to the gym? And because you've been working out now for like what, 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, I think it's like social anxiety.
Oh, really?
I've gotten so much better with just daily interactions with people, especially strangers,
Hmm.
where I don't know anything about them, and it's easy to spark a conversation with people now.
At the gym, yeah.
Yeah, at the gym or even like outside the gym. But I think like it came from the gym. I don't know, just having guys compliment you and all these things. And as a person with social anxiety, you tend to think people are like judging you or
Yeah.
making you feel bad. After like time of going through the gym, you get used to that environment, and it's like you kind of begin to notice that it's not like that. Like people aren't there to judge you
Yeah, like you
in the way that you think they're judging you. So
develop a bit of self-confidence and then that sort of like
yeah,
changes how you show up.
yeah, and then relationships like you're one person that I've met in the gym
Yeah.
that I've become close with. So that's another thing that's very beneficial. Yeah, just meeting new people and hanging out with the boys. I think it's really made me feel more connected to others through the gym. Just because like a lot of the times you have nothing to talk about with people,
Yeah.
and as soon as you find out somebody else goes to the gym, it's like, oh, you understand me. Like we have
Yeah.
a common thing, and that's something we can talk about. And then
Easy icebreaker, pretty much.
yeah, and then you kind of like your whole language switches. You start using like kind of the gym lexicons. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Do you think that sort of social development is largely because of the gym, or do you think it might have been sort of like a trajectory you were already on, and then maybe the gym just sort of helped facilitate it?
Yeah. Well, I think the gym helped me with my anxiety first, because that's what prevented me from talking to others or wanting to start a conversation, or like too scared to say something and kind of just holding it to myself.
Yeah.
I think it was through the gym where like I just started to explore um, those conversations and things, which ultimately helped me.
Like a fear of
Yeah,
perception.
yeah, I lost that like kind of anxiety of going into the gym. Like I
Hmm.
used to get really bad anxiety if the gym was packed. I
Oh,
used
yeah.
to think like, oh, I used to really care about the weight that I used to use,
Yeah.
and seeing another guy next to me using 40 pounds heavier than me made me feel insecure. But I think through the gym, it's kind of like made me like helped me understand that everybody's at different levels in life.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's the weights or maybe they have something going on at home. Like we all have different levels um, of life. So
Yeah.
I think the gym definitely taught me that like everybody's diverse, and that just because somebody else is lifting that weight doesn't mean they're better than me.
Yeah, for sure. That's like
Yeah.
a big part of like the lonely chapter that Chris Williamson talks about on Modern Wisdom a lot, and
Mm,
like Alex Ramosi and a lot of other self improvement guys, they talk about like this period tons of people go through in self improvement or self development or whatever, and they're working on their fitness, they're working on their career goals, maybe they're starting content, or they're working on their mindfulness. They're like they're branching out in all these areas of life, and they're sort of
yeah.
like leveling up their character, so to speak, like a video game. But the thing with that is like as part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the higher you climb, the less people are at that level.
Hmm.
And it becomes lonely because you can outgrow a group of friends, you can outgrow relationships. And it's not like the thing with it, as you're saying, is it's not like a moral judgment on people because people are just in different stages of their journeys.
Yeah.
And like just because someone else is at a different stage in this one aspect of their life, like
Yeah.
just because you're way more fit than this other dude at the sauna, maybe that guy meditates like 7 hours a day and he's like way more spiritually developed than you. Because
Yeah.
everyone has something to teach you and something you can learn from them. So like it's not a moral judgment when you're at different levels. And like if you work on a lot of different levels and you're sort of trying to develop yourself in a lot of different facets of life.
Yeah.
It definitely can be lonely because that's a rare thing and not a lot of people are doing that, right? Like there's tons
Mm-hmm.
of gym bros, but there isn't a lot of gym bros that are also into philosophy and also into meditation and also into
Yeah.
like journaling and all this. So it does, the lonely chapter still is real, but I think the key, like important takeaway with it is people hear that and they think like, oh, you think you're at like a high level, you think you're better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm a better version of myself, but like you're on your own journey. And that's what self improvement is. It's about comparing yourself to who you were yesterday and
Yeah.
being like the person you'd want your future self to be proud of,
Mm-hmm.
like your 80-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like a moral judgment thing. It's just everyone's at like a different point in their journey. And also, yeah, like people can be at different stages in different paths. So it's really like important. I think that's a great lesson to take away. And it's interesting you took that away from the gym,
Yeah.
which is just like people are at different stages. I mean, yeah, it plays out in fitness too, where like people can have different goals. You'll see that all the time where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this dude isn't training optimally or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe he's not trying to be a bodybuilder. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the only way to train. You
Exactly.
could train for mobility, you could train for health, you could train just to weight lift and be active. Like, there's all sorts of stuff you can do in the gym.
Yeah.
And when you sort of locked in on, one way of being the best way, you sort of just gatekeep it for everyone else. And it's like, the gym's for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting that the gym for you, like social anxiety was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because for
Yeah.
me, my biggest takeaway from the gym has been like the progression that I've been able to apply to other areas of life. Like
Mm.
the way I think about like consistency, showing up, and discipline, and all these different like lessons that I can use as a framework to like
Yeah.
apply to other areas of life, like
Yeah.
progressive overload, not just for the gym, but like for my journal, for my meditation practice,
Everything.
for content, like
Mm.
progressively, putting in reps, but also iterating and trying to get a little quote unquote stronger or better at whatever it is,
Yeah.
even if it's a little bit
Yeah.
over time. But I think it's interesting that the gym helped you open up. And I think it has helped me open up as well. Like
Yeah.
I've definitely like I've gotten more social and not just by accident, slightly on purpose as well. I've tried to like
Yeah.
talk to more people and be more sort of open and just like not have expectations because I think that's where tying back to this fear of perception, so many people get stuck in anxiety and this sort of social worry
Mm-hmm.
around others is it's the fear of perception, which is one of the biggest fears. I think it might be even like either first or second on like the list of most common fears. I know death is one of them, but I'm pretty sure fear of public speaking is like first or second, which is insane. Like I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are more afraid of public speaking than dying,
Yeah.
which is nuts. And it's all back to this like fear of perception that a lot of people have where
Yeah.
they have expectations that put pressure on themselves and it changes how they show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also creates this weird dynamic where they think everyone's judging them when in reality, the funny, like hilarious, ironic paradox of it all is that most people are worried about themselves also, and
Yeah.
they aren't even paying attention to you because they're worried about themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the gym comes in. Like you're so dialed in on your own things and
Mm-hmm.
your own stuff that you're not really focusing on what others are thinking of you or looking at you.
Yeah.
Like when you're truly locked in at the gym and just wanting to get your workout in, you're
Yeah.
you're, you're not comparing yourself with others. You just want to do your workout, what you know, the weight that you do, and come back tomorrow and do it all over again.
Yeah. When you hit
Um,
that zone
yeah.
and you just really like, whether you're listening to music or if you aren't, and you're just like, you're really feeling the weight and
Yeah.
you're really like connected with your body, it can also like almost be like a meditative practice sometimes. Not really,
Definitely.
but it can be like, it can put you in a really calm mental state, which
Yeah.
sounds weird because you're like pushing a lot of heavy weight around
Mm-hmm.
and you're sweating and it's really uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, it's like Zen for me, bro. And that
Yeah.
can be like really weird for people to sort of understand or connect to if they're getting into the gym for the first time or they're new to lifting.
Yeah.
But I think it ties into that mind muscle connection that a lot of people talk about, where it's like you feel sort of like in tune with your body in a different way.
Mm.
Like you carry your body with you everywhere. And when you build it and when you work on it, it changes how you move through the world, right? You carry the
Yeah.
evidence of the work you've put into yourself with
Yeah.
you all the time, but it also changes like your relationship to like how you know where your body is in space, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
you're sort
and
of more aware of your presence in a
yeah,
more physical way.
you can also like estimate what you want, what you actually want to eat if you're deciding between two things. When you know your body more,
Yeah, that's another
you
side
kind
of
of
it.
you kind of take a self to yourself, and you're like, oh, this is what my body actually wants. I think we should go for sushi instead of Subway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Or yeah, like that's a part of nutrition that you can definitely develop as well. Like I've been calorie tracking for like 3 years,
yeah.
and it's changed the way I think about food, but it's also sort of allowed me to intuitively eat a bit better
Mm-hmm.
because I can think to myself, okay, I need so and so amount of protein or whatever, and I need so and so amount of calories. What am I hungry? Like, what am I feeling like eating? And how can I sort of like combine these two things together? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not just thinking about it as numbers. I do follow my cravings to some degree, and I follow
Mm.
my taste and like, am I feeling savory or sweet? And that's why things like protein chips are great because if you
Yeah.
want protein, but you're not in the mood for like a protein bar or a protein shake or whatever, then just have protein chips and it's something savory, but you're still getting that protein.
Yeah.
Or, if you want something sweet, instead of going for the chocolate bar, going like, how would fruit feel for me right now? Like, would I enjoy fruit as well? And like just trying to listen to your body in a more understanding way, but also like you're not just going on whims, right? Because a lot of
Mm.
people will say, oh, I just eat when I'm hungry and I eat what I want.
Yeah.
And that's really easy to just fall into eating a bunch of junk food
Yeah.
because most of the time, if you're used to eating a lot of processed foods, your body's just going to crave more processed foods because
Mm-hmm.
they're quick, they're easy, they're
Yeah.
really high, tasty wise,
Yeah.
calorically dense, and you can eat a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to build that sort of like intuition with yourself, but you
Definitely.
can work on it
Definitely.
over time.
Yeah. I find it so unique and practical that we have that ability to ask our bodies what we want, and then to
Hmm.
be able to like actually feel what we want, to put what we want in our bodies. I find that so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, my partner, she has that unique skill where she kind of picking between two foods, and she does a thing where she like kind of bites. She'll think of what it'll taste like and do that. To be able to do that, you got to have some like pretty high intellectual understanding of your own body.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
It
but
plays into like different types of intelligence, which I
yeah.
haven't read the book yet, but I just got a book recently called Frames of Mind by Howard Gardner,
Mm,
and it talks about the different types of intelligence and how we focus so much on like intellectual intelligence because
yeah,
it's logic, it's reasoning, it can get a lot of stuff done, it's very high leverage.
yeah,
And the other type of intelligence most people think of is like emotional intelligence or like social intelligence, and they kind
yeah,
of think of them as the same thing, but they are distinct. And there's other areas of intelligence entirely, like
100%.
spatial intelligence, uh, kinesthetic intelligence, which is what we're talking about now, which is like bodily
Yeah,
intelligence.
it's spiritual too.
Yeah, spiritual intelligence.
Yeah,
Like there's tons of different avenues that your brain can play out in different ways, and fitness is a really great way to develop that sort of like holistic
mm,
connection with your body in like a different way.
yeah,
And that's another aspect of like the emotional development stuff I've been on recently is like, there's the head where you like conceptualize your emotions and stuff.
mm,
And then there's the heart where you feel your emotions and you're like, what is this emotion trying to tell me about this
yeah,
certain thing? Because it's signaling something.
yeah,
But there's like a step beyond that where it's how does this emotion feel in my
mm,
body?
yeah,
And it's like, where do I feel this? Like, am I feeling nervous, but it's like, it makes me feel scrunched up in my shoulders?
yeah. That tension.
Is it
Yeah,
tension there? Is it
yeah,
like my chest is tight and my palms are sweaty? Like, how is it playing out in my body?
yeah,
And it can be positive emotions too. It's not just like those are the obvious ones people think of as like tension, tightness when it's nervousness or stress or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But like if you feel relief from something, you'll notice your shoulders kind of ease, or you'll
Mm,
notice like your body, it wasn't tense before, but it sort of like softens in its presence.
yeah,
And like trying to listen to those types of signals,
yeah.
I believe it's called somatic.
Somatic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm just sort of getting into it, so I don't know a ton about it, but
Yeah,
it's like another aspect of like how your emotions connect different aspects of yourself, right? You have like your body, your mind, your heart,
yeah.
your soul, or your spirit, if you believe in that
Mm-hmm.
as, a sort of I th- I sort of think when people talk about their heart, they're talking about their soul or their spirit.
Yeah.
Most people kind of think of heart as like the love thing, but I think it's pretty synonymous with like soul when most people are talking about it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this whole like body intuition is just like another. It's definitely another avenue of the gym that's not obvious to most people because
Yeah,
you can't really
definitely.
see it,
No,
and not everyone talks about it. But like
no.
the obvious benefits are like you get jacked, you get more capable.
Yeah,
You get some athleticism. You can run easier. You could lift heavy stuff easier,
yeah,
and those are like immediate. You see a guy deadlift 500 pounds, and you're like, damn, he's strong.
yeah,
It's like monkey brain. It's like you immediately
yeah,
know it.
definitely.
But
I think it's just like the social aspect of the gym that people don't talk enough about.
yeah, for
Like
sure. I
like
mean, it's
the
kind of like a community of
yeah, totally.
it's a third space,
Yeah.
and those are really like lost in today's world a lot of the time
Mm,
because we have kind of created an artificial third space, which
yeah,
is the internet and social media,
yeah.
which is where most people go. Like, you traditionally think of the main places people are, it's their home, it's their work, and it's
Mm-hmm.
their education, their school, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then work and education kind of happen at different times in life. So that's why the third space is like, it's the third, not the fourth.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, third space is like the gym.
Mm,
I think they're rising in popularity. I see a lot more people going to the gym, and
yeah.
a lot of people like in high school and university, like they're definitely, and just from what I see online as well, I think it's a good positive change. And there's other stuff too, like run clubs,
Yeah.
Pilates like groups, yoga. There's
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of different exercise like communities. And I think that's like some sort of physical activity as a third space is really good because
Mm,
you're working on yourself. It's fitness, it's health, but
yeah.
it's also like you're connecting with other people and you're all sort of like struggling together in a
Yeah.
certain sense.
Yeah.
You're all like pushing through discomfort in a shared, and there's a understanding you have when you
Mm-hmm.
see someone else like pushing themselves hard at the gym. You know what that feels like for that
Yeah.
person.
It's like mutual respect where you're
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
man, I respect that that guy is willing to work that hard.
Yeah, you can see the
Uh,
sweat pouring off them, and you can
yeah.
see that, and it's like it creates a certain level of connection that exists without you even having to talk to them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why the sort of fitness based third spaces are great. And I hope that they sort of become more of a whatever they are, run clubs, the gym, anything, they become
Yeah.
more of like a staple in most people's lives because first off, exercise is so like transformationally powerful for your health
Yeah.
in any form, but
Yeah.
also just all the unobvious benefits you get from the gym
Mm-hmm.
that most people don't even think about, like the social
Yeah.
anxiety thing. Like I was surprised at how much more social I've become over the past few years.
Yeah.
Just you go to the gym around the same time
Mm-hmm.
every day or so, or a couple times a week, you'll start seeing the same people. Your
Yeah.
routines will overlap slightly, and
Yeah.
eventually you're going to start talking to them. Eventually, you're going to, you'll make friends. You'll maybe start relationships. Like a whole bunch can happen from the gym
Mm-hmm.
that you wouldn't think of because it is a community. You know, it's a pre-selection. I've talked about this before. It's like a
Mm.
pre-selection for like-minded people. Like
Yeah.
if you see someone consistently at the gym, you're already going to have a lot of the same interests and values because
Yeah.
you're both showing up consistently, you're both working on yourselves,
Mm-hmm.
you're both disciplined to some degree, you're both consistent.
Yeah.
So whether it's a friend or a romantic interest, like it's a great vetting process that you can just sort of
Totally.
do without even having to worry about.
Yeah. You can kind of navigate what kind of relationship is expected out of them within the gym, like based on if it's a guy, like if it's a jack guy,
Mm-hmm.
you already know you can talk about bodybuilding and everything. If it's somebody who's in calisthenics, you could go in and talk about like how to get more leaner, how to you establish those relationships
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to like I don't like the idea of like don't read a book by its or I like the idea of don't read a book by its cover, but I just think like I'm pretty good at making an assumption, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
on people kind of just by observing. And for me, I'm able to like direct how this relationship may go based off of what they look like and who they are, what their interests are.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
judgments aren't always bad.
Yeah.
You can judge someone and it is correct judgment.
Yeah.
You can judge someone and it might be wrong, but stereotypes, as dangerous and problematic as they can be most of the time, they do form for a reason. There are general patterns across different groups of people,
Yeah.
and like the types of people that go to the gym do have a lot of things in common, and
Yeah.
that's just how
How it is.
communities form.
Yeah.
And yeah, the internet and like social media have sort of like hyper extended this to the extreme. You have things like Reddit where it's like all the like-minded people on this one niche thing get together and then they create an echo chamber, which is problematic for a bunch of different reasons. But yeah, I think the gym is an excellent third space, and third spaces have been missing
totally
since the internet has kind of taken over.
Yeah.
Third spaces have been there, but they've just been like, most people don't use them. Most people don't have a third space, and they live their life, they're at home and they go to work, and they're done work and they go back home, or they're at home and they go to school, and then when they're done class, they go back home.
Yeah.
And all their free time is spent basically on a virtual third space, which is the internet. And whether they're browsing social media, watching a bunch of YouTube. And the thing is, I don't think this sounds bleak and cynical and all that. Like, it sounds like a bunch of people are just wasting all their time and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think the internet and social media are net negatives. I think they're actually quite beneficial for society.
Yeah.
The amount of connective power you have with social media, just to be able to reach out to tons of different people, is crazy. And most people don't use it effectively at all.
No.
Because they just think, oh, well, if I DM a person I'd like or I'm interested in talking to, they probably won't respond, so it's not worth it. And they don't do it.
Fear of perception.
Fear of perception playing out in a different aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not only that, like the information abundance that the internet has, the amount of stuff I've learned from the internet is truly groundbreaking and has entirely transformed my life.
Yeah. Same.
Whether it's fitness, relationships, self-improvement, almost all of it I would not know about if it weren't for people like what we're doing right now, sharing ideas and sort of engaging in dialogue about different things and sharing what they perceive as like valuable information to other people. And I think you can criticize the internet, rightly so, in a lot of different ways, especially social media. It's very dangerous for people's mental health.
Yeah.
But I think most of that, you have to accept the good with the bad.
Pros and cons.
It's pros and cons. And the thing with the cons of the internet and social media is they're very obvious. You have depression, anxiety, teen suicide, all these horrible things, body dysmorphia,
physical health,
whether it's fitness stuff. Like living a sedative lifestyle, not getting active enough because you're spending so much time on the internet or screens.
Blue screen.
There's a lot of blue screen's part of it too, like eye development and stuff. There's a lot of obvious negative side effects, and people do rightly criticize the internet and social media for a lot of these things. And of course, there's the big tech corporations trying to hijack people's attention with dopaminergic algorithms and all this stuff. I get all of that. The thing is, there is a lot of positive benefits to the internet and social media that people just don't notice immediately, and they're really unobvious. It's the same thing with the gym, right? There's tons of obvious benefits to the gym, but there's a ton of other unobvious benefits that people don't think about, whether it's social anxiety, building a community, taking the same frameworks of progression to other areas of your life. Just building confidence in yourself and building like a presence with your own body that you probably can't really get out of many other. Maybe if you're doing some sort of somatic meditation where you're like and feeling your body or something, I don't know. But
start levitating.
Yeah, there's not a lot of other avenues where you get that sort of experience and that sort of new perspective on yourself. So there's like a lot of hidden benefits to things that people don't really think about unless you sort of look a little deeper.
Yeah, like you said, when it comes to social media, it all depends on how you use it. Like
For sure.
Most gym goers or gym influencers, they're on there to promote, the gym, to get people active who aren't active, and to try to spread positivity. That's what most gym goers do. There's a couple red pill guys like Togi or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with him.
But yeah, there's just guys like that who use the internet completely wrong and promote all of the wrong things.
Or the trend twins.
The trend twins are one of them. They're all road, ragers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it definitely all depends on how you use social media. But another thing I wanted to kind of bring up is we were talking about breathing techniques
Mm-hmm.
kind of at the beginning, and I found even through the gym that like my breathing is so much better. Like what I mean by by that is when I was learning how to properly brace my belly.
Yeah,
I think going through that process really helped how I control my breathing in the gym now.
interesting.
Yeah, and you know when you go to the bench and you're working on your chest, you're supposed to be breathing into your chest rather than your lower body.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like making that distinctive difference, you can kind of tell. You begin to like realize how you breathe, where you either breathe into your stomach or into your chest.
Yeah, more of that like bodily awareness,
Yeah, and
mind
breathing,
muscle connection stuff. Yeah.
yeah, breathing techniques bring exactly that mind muscle connection through meditation and everything.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think breathing techniques are like the most important when it comes to the gym, and it definitely boosted like my overall like squat, bench, a lot of other things, knowing how to properly brace.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely another valuable lesson I've learned, because like when it comes to lifting, groceries or something really heavy, I purposely breathe into my stomach to kind of create that tightness. That
Yeah.
way, it prevents injury and everything. But yeah,
Yeah. It's interesting how it plays into like meditation as well, because breath in meditation is like such a powerful
mm,
core aspect of a lot of different practices.
yeah,
And it's because of, wherever you go, there you are. It's like the classic meditation, like your breath is always with you, right?
mm,
And it's something you can always like
rely on.
pull onto for the
Hmm.
present moment.
Hmm.
And yeah, developing that, it's another like somatic thing. We're developing that sense of self through your body and through how different things feel throughout your body. And like when you're meditating and you're deep, maybe 5 to 10 minutes into a session, and you're really feeling the breath like come in through your nose and it like comes out, and you can
Yeah.
feel it like entering your chest. You can feel your diaphragm like contracting. You can feel like the sort of like it kind of flows throughout your body
Mm,
in a way.
yeah.
And if you probably know what I'm talking about because you've meditated before, but for people who haven't meditated, it can sound sort of like weird
Yeah.
because you don't really pay attention to your breath much of the time.
I often meditate just to connect,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's connecting to nature to ground myself, or connect to others, or even connect to the universe. I find that meditation builds so much connection, because I get into this like flow state where I feel, almost like an out of body experience, where I get to kind of explore the entire world. And kind of I do certain meditations, like it depends on what it is. Like if it's anxiety, I use that to bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something like I'm going through, like losing a loved one and wanting to grieve them, I'll use meditation to do that, to properly grieve them, and go through those emotions. And then I just come back to it. I'm like, I'm here, I'm present, I'm grounded. And
Interesting.
yeah, that's what I use meditation for. I use it for specific things, but I find meditation has helped me so much with connection, feeling connection to just like whatever this thing is called life. Like
Yeah.
it just connects me completely to everything.
Yeah. Good
Mm.
connection to yourself
Yeah,
becomes
physically.
a strong foundation you can always rely on
Yeah, definitely. Physically, mentally, and spiritually.
because you can't be taken away from you if you have a good relationship with yourself, right?
Hmm.
Like no matter how rough of a situation you are. I mean, you can go back to like Nelson Mandela, right?
Yeah,
He was in solitary confinement in prison for like a long
yeah,
time. It was like
yeah,
20 years or something like that.
yeah,
And he came out the other side with a profound sense of peace because he conquered himself.
yeah,
He meditated not profusely is the wrong word.
yeah. Often,
Proficiently,
yeah,
often, a
yeah,
lot.
mm,
He was very in tune with himself,
yeah,
and that sort of connection and relationship you build with yourself when
mm,
not conquer yourself, but you like deepen that connection of your inner landscape.
yeah,
That is something that you can't, yeah, even in like the roughest situations, you can't take away.
Yeah.
And you can go to like some of the darkest places in history. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor, and
Mm,
he talked about very similar ideas where he's talking about uh, inner peace and finding meaning in your own life through the suffering that you've been through. And he was a Holocaust survivor. Like he was
yeah.
at like some of the death camps, I'm pretty sure, and he like escaped
Mm,
and made it out because he had something to hold on to. Because he
yeah.
had this idea for this book, and I think it was Man's Search for Meaning that he was. I'm pretty sure, and that's what held him on through that time,
Mm,
and that's what he always had that idea,
yeah.
and in a way that's just like sort of a connection with himself because it was a thing that he knew he wanted to do in the future,
Yeah.
and that gave him hope.
Mm,
And it's an extreme example, but you can take that exact same lesson and apply it to your own life. If
100%.
you're not feeling hopeful, if you have a strong connection with yourself and a
Yeah.
strong like and it turns into a bunch of different things. Like when you develop that strong relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
it plays out in confidence. It plays out in what people would call aura or biz. It plays
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in a bunch of different areas that are very unobvious because when you've actually looked inside and really looked at the things you've been through in your life, the patterns that control a lot of your thoughts,
Mm,
the unhealed wounds you have, whether it's deeper trauma or just like more minor things that are still bothering you to this day.
yeah.
When you've faced those and you've worked through them, and as people say, done the work, you do emotional work. I'm
Yeah.
working on myself.
Hmm.
These are things people kind of throw around all the time. When
Yeah.
you've like actually truly faced those inner demons and worked through a lot of them,
Yeah.
it's just something you can't fake.
Yeah.
And people can tell,
Mhm.
which is the thing. Even if they can't name it, they'll be able to sense it in you and they'll be able to go
Yeah.
something about this guy, like
Yeah. Something's off.
not off, but
No.
like off in
Mm.
a good way, sort of, or off in like
Mm.
a he's not
More content.
he's very present and
Yeah.
he's opened. There's a great Alain de Botton quote. He's
Hmm.
a British philosopher guy. He started the School of Life, which is like a YouTube channel and also like a foundation, writes a bunch of books and stuff.
Mm.
He has this great quote where he talks about how people who've opened a lot of doors within themselves can recognize that same thing in other people. So it's
Mm.
basically you can only meet people at the same depth that they've met themselves. So if
Mm.
you've worked on yourself a lot and you have quote unquote opened many doors within yourself, you can notice the same thing within someone else. You can see like the amount of time they've put into working through those inner things and
Yeah.
working through because it just sort of comes out in hard to describe little intuitions and like
Yeah.
different things like that.
Yeah. That can be intertwined to the idea that you can't love others without loving yourself first.
Yeah, for sure.
That can be totally tied into that. I strongly believe in that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I do things to work on myself to feel more connected to who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I do that through one of the things is meditation, but I also do that every morning in the mirror. I try to look in the mirror and I say, you know, I love me for me, and I am a good person, and I'm gonna live a good life. And I do this daily, every day.
Yeah.
I'll quickly look in the mirror, and I'll just say to myself, I love you, man. And it makes me feel so good, and it makes me feel like I have the ability to love so much, so many others, so many, like far beyond my own comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it does for me. But yeah, I strongly believe in that you cannot love others without loving yourself first. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Because connection sort of magnifies things in a certain way.
Yeah.
A quote from Higher Up Wellness, Michael Smoke, that I love is, and I don't know where he got it from, but I know it from him. A joy shared is a joy doubled, and a burden shared is a burden halved. So when you share the wins with someone, you both feel the celebration of it and it's magnified. The win feels bigger. Like when you share something great that happened with somebody else, like, dude, I hit that PR on bench.
Yeah.
225 and you're like celebrating together, it feels all the more special. Or
Yeah.
if you're like, dude, I got the A on that assignment or whatever it is, it feels more exciting because you're connected through that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a burden, something bad happens and you share it with somebody and you're vulnerable, it feels a bit easier because you're both carrying a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And I think just framing it that way is really just a great way to think about it. And it's like connection, it just makes things a little better.
That makes all of life better,
It's what most
I
people
think.
want at the
Yeah.
core of everything. It's like you just want to be connected to other people. When you share the wins, even sharing the losses, there's no like the fear of perception stops a lot of people from doing those things,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no real downside to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could come up with some exceptions, of course, but
Yeah.
in general,
Yeah. I think humans were put here to make connection. That's one of the things I believe in,
mm-hmm.
is that we were put here to experience and make connection with others. Because, like, I don't know, I've talked about it in your other podcasts that I strongly believe in interconnectedness.
Yeah,
And yeah, I just find that when you have that ability to kind of feel I don't really know how to word it.
the
Uh,
divine,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
transcendental, maybe
Mm-hmm. When you're
something beyond here.
Yeah, when you're able to like kind of think like that way or have that philosophical idea, I find you look at things in a way where you're looking at it with admiration. Like you admire others, you admire this, and it could be little things like maybe, I don't know, you're looking on social media and you see that a human being's built this amazing technological advancement of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that and you're like, dude, that's so cool. Like
You're
I
gizmo.
find that when you understand that like there's something bigger than us, you look at little things like as super cool. Like I don't know really like a specific idea. Like I don't know, you look at a gym machine and you're like, whoever designed this is an absolute magnificent man. So like
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I just I get so excited, so much more excited than the average person over little things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't think of a specific example right now, but it's just like little things where I'm like, dude, that's so fascinating. I don't know, it could be like a beautiful view. It could be a little plant where I look at it and I'm like, this is so fascinating. And somebody else could look at it, she'd be like, oh, it's a plant. Like,
Yeah, finding wonder
uh,
in small moments.
yeah, I find that like believing in interconnectedness has like really opened up my mind. Um, and I think the gym played a big part in that, understanding that like all humans are diverse, but yet we are all connected through something. And for me, it was the gym. Looking at another gym bro, I was like, yeah, we have that connection.
And then it just expanded outwards.
Yeah, it just kept expanding from there. I don't think the gym started that idea for
Yeah.
me, but it definitely played a major role in it.
Hmm.
That's for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sort of feeling that sense of oneness
Yeah. 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 The,
and how different things play into each other.
yeah. There's also the idea of like comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're constantly comparing others, you kind of feel bad about yourself, and then you get that fear of perception,
Yeah.
or fear of judgment.
Yeah, I just thought of
Yeah.
actually like a flip side quote to that, which would be instead of comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm.
Maybe a better way to look at it is connection is the seed of joy.
Connection is the seed of joy. Hmm. I like that. That's good.
Anyways,
It's a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought of it now.
Huh.
Just a fun way to spin it.
Yeah, you may have to quote that.
Yeah, it's honestly a good one.
Yeah.
Pop that in a newsletter or something.
Connection is the seed to joy. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's a great philosophical idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gym for you has mainly been like a social anxiety thing. At least what you said. It's been like
Yeah.
it's helped you connect to other people.
Well, it's done a lot more, but it's kind of like just common things that another person could easily say, like another gym goer could say, like my physical health has
Yeah.
significantly improved.
The obvious things, yeah.
Yeah, the obvious things, and like I feel more determined about things like outside of the gym.
You have a better
Uh,
sense of control over
yeah,
your
like
life.
yeah, and I have a better sense of my limitations too.
Interesting.
Like I just know what I can't lift or maybe what I can't do.
Hmm.
Maybe not psychologically, but physically, I definitely have a great idea of where my capabilities are.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Another thing is just like technique with things. Like when I have my canoe journeys, we have this common. You're in this motion,
Hmm.
and through the gym, you're constantly doing kind of natural movements. It kind of helps with things like that when it comes to that.
Yeah, form and sort
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
tying back to that kinesthetic intelligence we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Understanding like where your body is, and then getting into that mode. Yeah, I find that like yeah, the gym's definitely opened up my mind to like getting into this kind of flow state where
Hmm.
I'm completely mind muscle connected.
Interesting.
Hmm.
How would you say it's changed like your self concept, of like your self image, and how you think about yourself?
Yeah, it's I when I introduce myself to people, I often tell them, one of the things I tell them is that I go to the gym. I think it's become part of my identity.
Hmm.
It's definitely changed how I perceive myself. When I look in the mirror, I'm fairly confident. I struggle with a little bit of body dysmorphia, but I think every human being does. It's just natural.
Yeah.
I don't think there's nothing you can improve it, but I don't think it's ever going to go away. Like there's
Yeah.
that idea of always chase the pump.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
A lot of people get it falling into that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's definitely improved myself. Like, when I got into the gym, I was very, very skinny, very tiny, had little to none strength. And now I have all of these capabilities. I feel like I feel stronger, like I have the capability of protecting others
Yeah.
from harm or just, from anything. I feel more confident in kind of doing things myself. It's
Hmm.
like the gym for me, it was very independent. Kind of at the very, very start, it was very independent. I wanted to do it to strengthen myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely helped with being independent as well. Um, yeah, just trying to think of how it would help to my self concept.
I mean, all of those
Mm,
things definitely tie into it.
yeah,
Sounds like it's just giving you like a more in tune sense of evidence to yourself that you
yeah,
can get things done
yeah,
and that you are inherently like you're enough and you've proven to yourself like
yeah,
it's improved your self-worth but also like your agency and like your ability to do things. You're like
yeah,
I can change myself, I can
mm,
change my outcomes, I can change, I can control a lot more than I thought I could.
yeah,
And there's a bunch we can't control, but focus on the things we can control is one of the highest leverage things you can do because it's the stuff you can control.
yeah.
So
I think that stems from the sense of proudness.
mhm.
Like when I look back at the videos of me in grade 10 basketball, I'm just like, wow, like I don't even know who that person is anymore.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
I'm so far beyond from where I was there to now. But it's like it's all happiness. Like when I look at that kid, I see weakness. I see a kid who's insecure.
Hmm.
But like today, like I still have those insecurities, but they're like not nearly as bad.
Yeah,
So like what? Yeah, I
they're
don't
very
know.
faint.
Yeah, like when I think or try to feel what that Andrew would have felt back then, it's just like so different,
Yeah,
completely. Yeah.
yeah, I get the feeling. Like looking
Mm.
at pictures of myself, videos of myself from early high school, middle
Yeah.
school, and stuff. It's like,
Hmm.
wow, dude.
Yeah, and I've also like that determination comes in too when you're looking at that because you're like,
Yeah,
I've already gone this far. Imagine how far I could be in 5 years, right?
yeah,
And then just continue, right?
yeah. That's
Yeah,
the I think a trap a lot of people get stuck in is they think like this is my highest level.
yeah,
They like, oh, I've worked on myself, yeah, but like this is the most developed I'll ever be.
Yeah, I've
And it's
maxed
like, I've
out.
maxed out. It's
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about?
yeah. Come on, man. I mean,
Like, you
like,
could grow so much more. Not that you need to, but
yeah,
like,
I'm sure we have.
there's always more.
I'm sure we have human like limits for capabilities, but we can always improve another area of us,
Yeah, there's always a new
physically.
level to conquer.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something to chase. Mm-hmm.
It's the endless,
Yeah.
like, cycle of self improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
that's, you'll see, like, people hop from one thing to another, where they're
mm,
doing, like, they max, they do a bunch of lifting stuff. Maybe they do some bodybuilding or powerlifting, and then they get into like marathon running. And
mm-hmm.
then they like, this is mainly within fitness, you'll see this. Or then maybe they get really into like mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah,
And then,
exactly.
they just like, they get into all these different areas of life, and they're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I did that thing. Now what else can I do?
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of always looking for something to challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that comes from the gym.
For
You
sure.
look for challenges and opportunities to challenge yourself. Like you see a 5K running come up, and you're like, oh, I could do that. I'm gonna join that and prove to myself that I could do that.
Yeah, you start
Um,
chasing the discomfort, because
yeah,
the gym, you don't, people say, oh, I love like the discomfort and the challenge and like the pain of pushing to failure and stuff.
hell no.
I don't think you do. You just get comfortable with the discomfort.
I think it's the idea of pushing yourself.
Yeah.
Like you just get so it feels good when you exert yourself, when you push yourself, especially like when you're going for like your own personal record, a PR. And you actually get it up. You're like, you get all hyped up.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. It's
that,
that evidence.
yeah, yeah, that proof. Mm-hmm.
I think that's, Alex Ramosi, Chris Millinson, they've talked about it like a million times, but it's like,
Yeah.
confidence is just a collection of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's building up enough proof that you don't need to find more proof to convince yourself that you're good and you're enough. Like,
Yeah.
it's building a stack of evidence that's like, I can do these things. I
Mm-hmm.
can do this. I can do that. I did this for years. I did this. And you develop a sense of like trust with yourself that like, if I say I'm going to do something, I know I can do it. And I know
Yeah.
I'm going to do it because
Yeah.
I'm honest with myself and I'm honest to my own word. And then by extension, people will be able to trust me because they know that guy's always honest with himself. I know I can trust him because he doesn't even lie to himself.
Yeah.
And he's honest with himself.
Mm-hmm.
And building up that evidence plays out in a bunch of different ways. People just think of it like the gym, you know, proving that you can change your body, proving you can get stronger, proving you can improve your health. But for me, like, it's also played out in a bunch of different like social areas as well, like proving I can talk to people and it's okay. Like, you don't need to be worried about
Mm-hmm.
people's perception of you. And pushing wherever your fear lies is your next task. That's a
Yeah.
really great quote that I like, because it's whatever you're afraid of signals to you parts of yourself that you are not letting in or not letting be welcome.
Yeah.
And it's something you're avoiding. And whether it's social anxiety or fear of perception, which are kind of similar things, or, whatever different fear it is, usually it's a fear of perception.
Yeah.
It's pushing yourself in little ways to prove to yourself that you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And that's part of what I did with my like daily content challenge that I was posting,
Yeah.
like the 1 minute unedited clips every day. And I'm still doing it. I'm doing it for the whole year. But
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's so like second nature to me now. I barely even think about it.
Mm.
Like, I have an idea for something and I just film the video.
Yeah. You got comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like,
Totally.
I just post it without thinking about it either. I'm not like, oh, what are people going to think?
Yeah.
I know, just out it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of your videos was the idea of congruency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the gym definitely improves and develops a high level of congruency between your ideal self and your self-image.
Yeah.
I think it definitely balances it out a lot more because you get more confident and you also like get a better idea of like where your limits are, and it kind of evens that out a little bit.
Mm.
Builds better congruency between your ideal self and self-image. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that I would say I would definitely say the gym's helped with my overall congruency.
Yeah, it pushes you towards the version of yourself you see in your head, like your ideal self. Like it pushes you towards it, and then it also helps you realize like where you're at in relation to it. Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
it builds more of an overscope of your self concept too. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, you start exploring new ideas and all these other things about yourself. And a lot of that comes from the gym.
Yeah, and I think
I think. Yeah.
yeah, I think the gym is especially like it has a different aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
Especially with growing muscle, you have
Yeah.
the pump, which gives you sort of like a little bit of a preview as to where you're going to be in the future. Like
Mm-hmm.
not always exactly, but like in general, the longer you're in the gym, the
Mm.
more you train yourself, the more you work on your nutrition and training and everything.
Yeah.
Over time, you will be more muscular and slightly more lean because
Yeah.
your muscle's going to burn more calories, so you won't need as many calories to maintain whatever
Definitely.
leanness. So it's easier to be lean, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're pumped, you look a little bigger, you look a little more lean. That's sort of like a preview as to like, hey, this is coming up,
Yeah.
and that really helps. Sometimes motivation's lacking. That really helps like push you a little bit and keep you a little more consistent.
Mm.
And that isn't present in a lot of other domains, which can be really difficult. Like
Mm-hmm.
with content, it's very difficult to stay consistent with posting when you have a dry week and like each video has like 50 views,
Yeah.
or you go a month and you've gained like barely any followers, because you have this idea that's pushed down on you constantly when you see other people growing fast on social media, you see other people going viral.
Mm-hmm.
Again, comparison sneaks in,
Yeah.
and you think, why am I not growing that fast? Why, I'm still growing, but I'm not growing as fast as I want to, and I want to, I have these goals, and I have these things I want to do, and I have all these different
Yeah.
ideas and expectations. And the thing is, you don't get like a little preview of like, oh, here's where you're going to be when you have 1,000 followers. Here's where you're going to be when you have 1,000,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to kind of stick with it. And
Yeah.
that's the hard part. And that's where most people quit, is the consistency of doing the boring, obvious thing
Yeah.
for a long period of time without any proof that's going to work at all.
Mm.
You can like tell yourself it's going to work out if I do it eventually.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I know I'll get there at some point, but you don't know. And you
Yeah.
can't, like, it's really hard to stay consistent with it when you
Yeah.
don't have that glimpse into like a possibility of it actually working out.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the gym, you have that pump, you have that
Yeah.
little preview. With things like content, or if you go like a mindfulness journey, for another example, or like journaling, it's very unobvious that
Mm.
journaling for 3 years is going to improve your self-image and improve your relationship with yourself. Like people can
Yeah.
tell you that,
Yeah.
but you don't know what it's going to do for you
Yeah.
until you actually you do it and you stick to it for a long period of time. And now me, like looking back over the past roughly year and a quarter
Yeah.
that I've been doing journaling pretty much every day,
Mm-hmm.
it's insane to see how much progress I've made in terms of like self-reflection,
Yeah.
noticing my own thought patterns, being more in tune with my emotions, and a whole bunch of other different things that I would have never, like, I knew journaling was good for you, but like I never would have expected the things to come out of it that did come out of it.
Yeah.
The same with
Yeah.
like meditation,
Yeah.
like the amount of like mindfulness and groundedness and presence that it's developed within me.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of like know about it, but
Mm.
it's hard to really believe it until you do it.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part with sticking to a lot of things consistently over a long period of time, is that you can know and sort of believe it's going to happen, but you don't actually fully, like, it doesn't fully register, it doesn't fully hit with you
Mm.
until you get there.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get there, you're on to the next thing. It was like, oh, I'm gonna think that's the hard part with the
Yeah.
content as well. It's like I know I'll hit some milestone that I've been working towards for such a long time,
Yeah.
and just like every past milestone I've had so far, like hitting 250 followers on Instagram, hitting 100 subscribers on YouTube, you hit it and it's cool for a second,
Yeah.
and then you're like, okay, now keep posting, keep growing, keep
Mm.
sharing what I consider to be valuable information to people, keep
Yeah.
working on ideas, and keep finding connections between things and all that. Like,
Mm.
it sounds like kind of anticlimactic to say. It's like, oh, I know I'll hit 1,000 subscribers and I'll just be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you get up the next day and you're just back.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You just keep going.
I'd rather have a slow developed fan base and a consistent fan base.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Than being a one-hit wonder and having an inconsistent fan base.
Yeah, you don't want to hit like, I mean, virality can be good if you capture it well, but yeah, you don't really want to have one moment to shine and then people forget about you.
Yeah, I
takes a while.
Yeah, I'd definitely rather have a consistent fan base than somebody who would like an inconsistent fan base, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough thing.
Definitely.
You don't get the preview, but also another part of a lot of different consistency things is just accepting it's going to take such a long time.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to commit to it, not just for a week or a few months, but like years. It's like, if I want content to be my full-time thing, and I really do, I love making content, I love sharing value with people, I love writing, I love ideas and all philosophy, self-improvement, all this stuff. It's going to be like a lifelong thing. And even like, takes me maybe like 5 years to get to the point where I'm living off of it full time. And like, I can make it my full-time thing. I'm not going to stop. Like, that's not the point of it. I love doing it, so I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing with like romantic relationships too. It's like, yeah, I'd want to find someone, but can't rush that. Maybe it'll take 3, 4 years, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah. Same with your career. You should always aim for a job that you genuinely enjoy rather than a job that just pays.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And content's an interesting one because it's so, I don't know, people say it's saturated, but I don't actually think it is, but it's so like sought after. Like if you ask like kids, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, what do you want to be when you grow up? One of the number one answers is like YouTuber, influencer, social media person.
Yeah.
And that's just because they consume content all the time and they look up to a lot of different influencers and content creators, and they think it looks so cool and it looks like they're living their best lives because they're showing a highlight reel a lot of the time. And I do think there's like an idealized version of it, and everyone hears that and they go, oh, there's like all these kids trying to be content creators, so it's not worth trying to become one because it's so saturated, you'll never break through. Right? They think of it like the same way people think of like musicians trying to make it as a band, or someone trying to get into acting in Hollywood, and it's like, oh, you're gonna get into Hollywood, sure, bud. Or, oh, you're gonna become a big musician and sell out stadiums, sure, bud. They hear that and they think it's such a far away like dream, like, oh, having 1 million subscribers and having a big podcast and whatever, or having a massive newsletter tons of people read. It seems crazy because it's such a big dream and it's so far away. But I think that since it's so crazy and it takes so much work and it takes such drive, consistency, and as I was talking about, you stick with it for so long and you have no idea if it's going to work out. I don't think a lot of people are actually in the game. This is why I had an issue on my, like a little mini essay on like the issue of the fold. I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, where I said, I think competition is an illusion, because if you're truly trying to set your goals high and you're trying to achieve really big things and accomplish big things, most people are going to quit before they get there. And you'll hear about a lot of, like, it'll seem like a lot of people are working on, tons of people are posting content, tons of people are becoming creators, gaining followings and all of this stuff. You don't see all the people who do it for 3 months and then stop. You don't see the people who quit. And a lot of the times they'll quit right before something big happens, or they'll quit at a moment where if they could have pushed for maybe another year, they could have started to see some growth if they just believed in themselves more.
Something could have happened.
And I think, I mean, it sounds crazy to say that goals are inevitable, but if you are aiming towards them and you have the determination and you have the consistency and you have the drive and you're doing it from a place of enjoying the game,
Yeah.
having fun with it, and you're not
Yeah.
trying to like, oh, I want to be a content creator to make X amount of money and be famous.
Mm.
No one with that goal is going to become a content creator.
Yeah.
Maybe they will, but if they do, they'll be miserable because
Yeah.
they'll get it and then they'll realize it's empty and hollow.
Yeah. And then their stuff may not be as authentic.
No, it won't be,
Yeah.
but because they'll be chasing virality and stuff.
Yeah.
But and that's the balance. What I'm on is like trying to be as authentic as I can while still like presenting things in a way that people will actually pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Because if you just like try, if you just don't care what people think at all, then it's kind of counterproductive because you can end up like pushing people away, or you can
Mm.
end up like, if you don't think about how people are perceiving your content at all, then you're just not being a good content creator, really.
Yeah.
Because you like, yeah, you want to share valuable information, you want to do it from a place of authenticity, say what you
Mm.
believe to be true. But if you're saying it in a way that only makes sense to you, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And the whole point of it is to help people.
Yeah. That's a holistic approach to content creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I don't know how we got on this tangent, but
Yeah.
probably through the gym somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's just a lot of unobvious benefits to stuff like the gym
Mm.
is the main
Yeah.
sort of thing we've been dancing around.
Yeah. There's kind of yeah. There's just like the obvious things that you can say about the gym, but then there are more. There's more of like a deeper understanding
Mm-hmm.
within it. Definitely, like it goes far beyond just physical, psychological kind of healing. I think there's some spirituality to it, definitely,
Yeah, for sure.
and there's that connection part that plays a major role that people don't really talk about, especially with anxiety. Like I just find that was one of the biggest things for me was anxiety, just like um, having the fear of judgment from others and
Yeah.
comparing myself so much to others. The gym just taught me, a healthier way to do that and a
Yeah.
healthier way to deal with that fear and that anxiety towards social interactions. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of more things we could possibly touch on, but it's just like the basics are just kind of what everybody else would say. Yeah, which is
Yeah, I mean, everyone's
mental. Yeah.
on their own journey with it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, we're all diverse human beings living our own life and on our own journeys. So definitely, yeah,
I'm curious. I know you want to be like a youth counselor, right? And you're going into psychology
yeah,
and you want to get like your therapist certification or
yeah. Counselor, therapist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, is that like your biggest goal, or do you have like what are your goals? Because that path seems like, it'll be tricky, but it seems quite achievable, right? You get to that point, you know the things you need to do, and
Mm-hmm.
then you do them, and you get to that point, and then it's not like fully certain, but it's pretty laid out.
Yeah,
Do you have goals that scare you?
definitely, 100%. There are so many goals that like are so far beyond my reach that I will never be able to accomplish. Like I have this amazing idea of creating an entire new nation within Canada where it's all of West Coast First Nation peoples all along the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
as if we all became one nation within peace, kind of create peace among all of us, work towards, combating the government for Indigenous land rights and, solving issues like the housing crisis. Like there are so many goals that I have with Indigenous kind of ideologies or advancements that I have that I think are so far beyond me. And one day I want to be able to to have future generations look back and say, I've done that healing and I've gone through that trauma. And now we can start an entire new intergenerational healing
Mm-hmm.
rather than continuing intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of goals that are like so far beyond my capabilities, but it's ideas that I have that I would love to see in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of them. Um, and then
Why do you think it's outside of your capability?
just because of society, Canada, laws, government, all of those things, to actually have Canada agree to let all of these regions, provinces, all come together as a different nation separate from Canada, that's pretty much impossible. I would need at least 500 lawyers.
I don't know about
Who
impossible though.
impossible?
Sounds
Maybe.
possible to me.
I don't think it's impossible for me to start it, kind of create that framework for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I will never see that in my lifetime. It's just not doable. They when they talk about that intergenerational trauma, they talk about the start of the healing journey is 250 years away from today. That's a long time, man. That's a lot of generations to be able to get to that point. Human lifespans are only
Mm-hmm.
like on average 80. So
And who says that?
stats, or
Like
like
what
like
stats?
like like the age thing
Like why does it have to be 250 years?
doesn't have to be. These are kind of prophecies that have been gifted to Indigenous communities from a higher up being, kind of spiritual being.
Mm-hmm.
The creator is the most common in most Indigenous communities. But it's just the vision that we have. I find that, like, for me, there's so many Indigenous communities have that unique ability of foresight, where they can foresee see things,
Mm-hmm.
and they have visions, and they're often seen as gifts from either past relatives or other spiritual beings. And so, for me, I strongly believe them. If an elder is going to come and tell me that, I probably won't see healing for another 250 years, I'm going to believe him, because he has that knowledge and that power to be able to pass it on to me. And what he's telling me is something like he's looking out for me, right? And so, like, it may not be 250 years from now, but it's something that, like, is definitely understandable
Mm-hmm.
if it was 250 years from now. Because, like, what, residential schools closed down in, I think the last one was 1996,
Mm-hmm.
and it's now 2026. And it basically an
30 years.
entire, almost, halfway through an entire, or the entire generation that was born that year. So, and there's all sorts of intergenerational trauma that are very evident in today's society, all across Canada, even just globally, with residential schools. So yeah, I don't know. For me, I have so many ideas with Indigenous communities, especially my home community, that are, it's almost not unachievable, but out of my reach. I can
Mm-hmm.
always create the foundations that can start the starting point for all of these end goals, but to actually achieve them, it's a lot of work, and I have a life to live. I have
Hmm.
a life that I want to enjoy.
I just find that hard to believe. And I think it's very self limiting to say that you can't start healing because the intergenerational trauma is too strong.
No, no, I think you misinterpreted what I was trying to say there.
Maybe.
Like, with intergenerational trauma, it is seen both physically and psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
and within our genes, right, biologically.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, um, and so, like, for us to change and alter our biological state, that takes multiple generations to evolve. So that's one aspect of it.
I don't know if it's that imbued into yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
the Holocaust was in the 40s. You hear nothing about intergenerational trauma that the Jews have gone through.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, maybe I just haven't looked into it,
Yeah. I,
but
I think you should do some further research there.
okay.
Yeah.
But I've heard nothing about biological repercussions of intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
Psychological for sure.
Hmm.
And that can be passed down through like maybe like the stress of a pregnant mother carries different hormones or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I have an iron deficiency and a B12 deficiency, which is caused by residential school because they didn't give enough vitamins to a lot of Indigenous children. They didn't get enough nutrition, and that alters you biologically when it's continuous generations going through that exact same thing,
but
being
how can you know that it's from
malnourished.
that?
How can you know?
Yeah,
Because it's evident that before colonization, Indigenous peoples thrived.
but they didn't have the way to test like an iron or B12 deficiency back then.
No, but we weren't malnourished.
Okay, but you're not malnourished.
No, I, I'm not. But I'm saying that those
I'm
kids who
just saying
were,
you can't like compare equally because you have more measuring technology nowadays.
yeah,
So the
but
only way you know how indigenous people were doing pre-colonization is through stories and like anecdotal evidence, which is very weak.
I mean, I guess so. But
I'm not discounting the fact that yeah, they probably were better off before a bunch of people came and colonized stuff.
yeah,
But I'm also saying like you can't I don't think you can say for certain that your deficiency in like B12 or iron is definitely from residential schools. It may be,
hmm,
but I don't know if saying that it's definitely from that is just a hard
sure.
judgment to
You're
make.
thinking very scientifically,
Yeah,
Western thinking. Yeah,
yeah,
like
doesn't mean it's wrong.
we may not have that evidence, but I guarantee if we had the technology that we have today and we went back to before colonization, 90% of all Indigenous communities across Canada would be properly nourished. We would not be malnourished.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly believe that. And there's counts of us first going in to residential school, and I can't say us, I should say former relatives going into residential school
Mm-hmm.
with them being properly nourished, and after coming out, they're down 40, 50 pounds because they didn't eat enough within their time frame that they were there.
Yeah, obviously the
So
conditions there were
yeah,
horrible, but it's just very hard to say that any of that is for sure. You can't like
sure,
it's a belief statement,
yeah,
which is fair, but it's not
mm,
provable and it's
okay.
not falsifiable in any way. Like
I
there's no way to disprove it and there's no way to prove it either. It's just like this probably was the case.
I think you should do some research into it. Definitely, yeah,
Okay, but I'm just saying from a scientific point of view, it's impossible to prove whether or not there was a widespread deficiency among indigenous peoples or not.
mm,
And just like assuming that it's because of the residential schools, like yeah, it might have been because of that, but you can't say it for sure. And discounting that point just because it's Western thinking, I don't think that's fair.
hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think you should just do some research into it.
Fair enough.
You'll probably get a broader sense of what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the psychological. Many Indigenous communities struggle with alcohol,
Yeah, for sure.
and that affects you biologically. It kills everything in your body.
Yep.
That
Fetal
can
alcohol
be,
syndrome.
yeah. There's
Well, depending on if you're
and
drinking and pregnant or whatever, but that's a different thing.
and the man who introduced that was white, the white man who introduced that to Indigenous people. So there,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that trauma is going to take years to get out of, because we've now, you know, okay, look at this. So we're living before colonization, right? It's a learned lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
We come in, or colonization comes in, we learn their lifestyle. That means that is conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
And now our former life is unconditioned, it's unlearned, right? Now
Well,
we
I would say
have,
there was a mix of the two, but yeah.
yeah, and now we have this new way of life, which is
Mm-hmm.
very toxic.
Good and
Um,
bad.
yeah, mostly
A lot of
talk.
bad, but
Yeah, mostly talk, like in general, toxic.
mm-hmm.
And so now we have to unlearn this new way of life and create a new learned lifestyle for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to take a lot of years, and 250 years is like not the exact date where all of a sudden everything's going to switch.
I'm not
They,
saying that.
they,
Yeah, I
they
know.
say that it's going to take up to 250 years before you see constant healing all across Canada,
Yeah, I just don't believe
where,
that at all.
where Indigenous communities are actually thriving. We've gotten rid of alcohol abuse, drug abuse. We've gotten rid of physical abuse, toxic traits within Indigenous communities. The housing crisis has been solved across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
There are all these things that need to take time, and they're all obviously like
Why do they though?
thousands of other factors that
Like, I agree, there's a lot of issues to work through, but why do they just need to take time?
everything in life takes time.
Everything takes time, but
Yeah,
like saying, "Oh, it's going to take it's not possible during your lifetime. We can get started, but it's going to take way longer than that." I don't buy that at all. I think
I think
it's a
individually,
very self-limiting way to look at personal growth and healing.
we can personally grow, but to convince so many others to be on the same level when all they know is this one lifestyle is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I don't know why it's even worth putting out a number like 250 years, because it's impossible to know how long it would take to convince every single Indigenous person in Canada.
Yeah,
So I don't know, it just seems like a weird way to frame things for me.
yeah,
But
sure.
like, instead of focusing on the group identity of all Indigenous peoples, we should be focusing on each individual Indigenous person and trying to help them make the best of their own life.
And I think that's where the confusion is, because individuals, it is so hard to convince somebody else to change who they are, change their behaviors, how they act, what
Yeah,
they
I'm not
do.
saying you like tell them to change. I'm just
Yeah,
saying like you help them out.
yeah, and you can only do that to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many, and also only a certain amount of people, very little amount of people are willing to do that healing and to try to better themselves and step away from addiction.
I just
It's
think I understand the framing of it's going to take a long time for Indigenous people as a whole to work through intergenerational trauma and to
Yeah.
heal through a lot of different things and work through a lot of these issues. I totally get that. But I think it's really easy for someone to hear that and think, oh, I can't do anything about it. It's just something outside of my control, and therefore I'm oppressed or I'm a victim. And it's very
Mm.
like it's extremely easy to fall from the group identity collective issue mindset into the personal, like, I can't do anything, helplessness mindset. And I'm not saying that's like a widespread issue or anything. I just think that is an issue that can arise, and I see it throughout a lot of different things where people will. It's the same thing in like the U.S. with slavery or with women in the suffrage rights movement. They'll say, "Oh, this thing has lasting effects on society," and that is true. That is a true point. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Like, uh, patriarchal systems and like sexist, misogynistic things from the past have influenced the way women operate in society throughout time, the same way that like slavery and civil rights movement and all that affects the way that black people move throughout society over time. The issue is when you take that as a collective group thing and you make broad claims about it, people identify themselves into those groups, and then they take that same true statement and make it about themselves individually. And it's very easy to fall into that victim mindset where they just think they can't do anything, and
Mm.
they go, "Oh, I'm oppressed, and everyone's out to get me. And since the world is racist or sexist or whatever, I can't do anything about my own life." And that's the part. that I think is completely wrong. And I'm
Okay.
not saying that's baked into the statement. I'm just saying like it's really easy for that statement to get misinterpreted.
Yeah, I suppose so. Let me ask you this then.
Mm-hmm.
As a residential school survivor, are you a victim?
Depends on how you view yourself.
You're saying a residential school trauma survivor is not a victim?
I say if you think you're a victim, sure, but it depends on your self-image of how things happened.
Are you saying a rapist is the victim? Or the
Whoa,
person
where
who's
are you going here?
or the
What?
person who's been raped is the victim?
In most cases, yes, but I'm
What,
saying like,
which one is it?
what are you talking about?
Is it the person who's being raped the victim, or is it the rapist who's the victim?
The person being raped is the victim, but
Mm.
I'm still saying it's not
So
just a blanket statement you can make. It
so
depends on how you view yourself. If you don't view yourself as a victim, I wouldn't say you're a victim.
depends individually.
Yeah, like most people might call you a victim, but if you don't see it as a negative experience that controls and defines who you are, and you instead choose to alchemize it into something else, you could say I was a victim of that thing during that time, but I don't identify like I'm not a victim as a person. Like I
Okay,
think there's a distinction between those.
as a straight up fact. They don't identify that straight up fact. They're the victim, right?
Sure, but it's just a label.
Okay, and if that person has caught on these tendencies of getting beat, being raped,
Mm-hmm.
passing it on to their children, do you think that child is now a victim?
Not in the same way.
Not in the same way, but
They might be a victim of the negative patterns that their parent learned from being a victim from a different thing. But
and
it's
then
not like the exact same.
and then
But yeah,
if
like
that
cycle of abuse type stuff where like, you have an abusive
yeah
father who abuses his kids and then that kid learns to abuse his kids
yeah
and on and on and on. I would like you wouldn't say that the grandkid is a victim of the grandpa. Not directly at least. In a way sort of,
yeah
but like
indirectly,
yeah.
but still the stem of it. That's the start of
Mm-hmm.
that trauma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like
I'm just not sure where you're going with this.
me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's
I
pretty.
was just having a problem with the underlying self-limiting belief
Yeah,
assumption baked into the intergenerational
it
trauma thing.
makes more sense when you put it individually. But like,
Yeah, I agree. There's tons of collective issues
yeah,
for Indigenous people in Canada, obviously,
yeah,
and it obviously is all from residential schools, colonial. Not just, I would say it's less colonial and more religious fundamentalism that like
that
um,
came from the colonials.
yeah, but not like misinterpretations of religious texts that forced a lot of, I don't know if it was Catholics or other types of Christians to try and like spread their religion into Indigenous people's lives as a
Mm-hmm.
way of life, and like
Yeah,
they thought religious Indigenous people were heathens or whatever, and they wanted to like bring them to the light or whatever.
they say
Um,
correct.
yeah, correct them or whatever like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, like a sort of cultural cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, obviously all of that is bad, but I wouldn't say you can just say it's all colonial
Yeah.
in
I
nature. It's a combination of colonial and religious.
I can agree with that. I think any human being who's ever gone through any sort of trauma, they don't have to let that trauma define who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have an anxiety attacks from it or not, it doesn't have to control your life. So I think it matters individually,
Yeah.
but saying you don't understand how that would have caused this here, that's pretty hardcore, man.
Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
Like you're trying to say that residential school basically didn't start all of this intergenerational trauma.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
That's what I gathered.
No.
And then individually,
No, I'm acknowledging
and then
intergenerational trauma is real and it happened.
yeah, and then individually we've carried it on because we didn't want to change. Is what
No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you hear the message of intergenerational trauma is so powerful on the collective people of the Indigenous people of Canada
Yeah.
that it's going to take like at least 250 years to start healing from it. That might be a true statement about all people,
Yeah.
all Indigenous people. But when someone hears that, it's very easy to think that that applies to each individual Indigenous person. When
Mm.
it sort of does, but not really.
Yeah.
Because personally, you're defined by your own beliefs. And yes, you may have intergenerational trauma that's manifested itself through different ways based on the way your parents treated you or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't improve your life and you can't, uh, do things to make your own circumstances better.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think your trauma has to define you.
Yeah, I know.
We can always change.
And I'm not
And
saying all Indigenous people define themselves by their trauma. I'm just
yeah.
saying it's an easy trap to fall into when you frame things that way as a collective type of thing.
Yeah. But this is a vision. You have to take on another perspective. For Indigenous peoples, this is more than thinking scientifically or Western. We
I know it's about like the
it's
culture of
yeah, it's about spirituality,
the
it's
way the
about
nations move
culture.
forward in time.
Yeah, a lot of Indigenous communities have been talked about being able to foresee things happen. Like when it comes to the creation story that I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
A person was given the vision. They try to let the village know. They didn't believe him, and guess what happened? The flood came. So I understand what you're trying to say, but you're also like
I
you're
just think
you're
group
exempting
identities.
you're exempting that person's vision, which is impactful because you're going against that person's vision. This person who said this is a leader within Canada and across Indigenous nations, many Indigenous nations. He's a well-respected chief who said this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you to say something like that is almost, it's like hurtful towards that person's idea. And he's not saying like for sure 250 years is how long it's going to take.
I know.
He believes as an individual, he believes himself that this is what it was, and I was given this vision,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it is incorrect, maybe it is correct, but he had this vision, and now he's just trying to pass the knowledge on to the rest of Indigenous peoples. And he's not saying that as an exact date or like that's how long it's going to take. But he's just saying, like, through intergenerational trauma, a lot of Indigenous communities struggle so much. And it's not even just intergenerational trauma, it's laws, right? Like, there's many rights, and a lot of Indigenous communities don't have access to drinking water or clean drinking water. Like, there are all of these little areas that we have to work on, which is
Mm-hmm.
going to take years. And that doesn't mean that we don't all have to wait 250 years. Just saying it's going to take years to establish equality, both socially, economically, and culturally. It's going to take a lot of years to get there. And he had only said this because he had a vision that was bigger than himself.
Mm-hmm.
I see how people may fall under that idea that I can't do anything, but that's not the idea that comes from it. When an Indigenous person reads that and they think of that, they don't instantly break down and say, "Oh, I'm never gonna change. Like, it's gonna take 250 years. Like, why would I bother?"
Yeah, no, my problem is
Nobody.
less with that specific statement because I don't think it's, I mean, it might be correct, might not be correct, but generally what he's saying is true, where it's like, it's going to take a lot of time
Yeah.
to move forward as a community. The issue I have is less about that specific statement. It's more about the ideas of group identities as a whole. And understand like the culture and like community of the Indigenous peoples is very strong and very important spiritually in a bunch of different ways,
Yeah.
for sure. It's just that when you identify yourselves like yourself with a group identity, it lends itself to a lot of problematic tribalism type of things where it's like
Mm.
us versus them, it's Indigenous people versus the white colonials, or it's women versus men, or it's minorities versus white people, or whatever it is. And the thing is that when you focus on those group identities, it pulls away from the actual issues that matter.
Hmm.
And a lot of those issues start with yourself.
Hmm.
And I think individual agency and responsibility is where you can enact the most change. And yeah, it's hard to convince other people to change,
Yeah,
but
that's the
as the
hardest.
main thing the gym has taught me is like agency. I can do so much more for myself than I thought I could. And I think
Yeah.
that message is more useful for people to hear than any sort of like collective group identity. And I know that's difficult because like Indigenous people have such a strong like sense of community and culture,
Yeah.
that ties them together. And if anything, the residential schools probably like strengthens that because it's sort of like that shared sense of, well, not shared sense, shared experience of suffering that they went through, like bonds the community together in a weird sort of way, in like a strong
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I mean, it's tricky to balance that because you don't want to just ignore the fact Indigenous people are a community and have this shared like
mm-hmm.
spiritual belief system, but also like shared culture and traditions and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also like I think you really have to focus on like starting with yourself and starting with the individual.
Yeah. I completely agree that it's all about individual work,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually somebody else will see you pick up, and then it carries on, and and but then again, that takes time still
Yeah,
to be able to hang out with somebody all the time, and then they see all of your good tendencies, so they pick up their good tendencies. It takes time.
yeah,
So like that's where that 250 years comes from, is that like it's going to take time, but we have the ability to do it together as one. And you talked about grouping. We group each other because we believe we're all one. Whether you're
I know one people. Yeah,
whether you're white, black, native, Asian, Chinese, it doesn't matter what race you are in the world. What we believe is we, in 250 years, we as a world, globally, as human beings, can create healing within the world, not just specifically Indigenous people.
yeah. And I like that
Yeah,
message for sure. I just don't see that message being emphasized as much. It's more
yeah.
about like the Indigenous people.
Hmm.
It's just the Indigenous people, which is
Well,
fair. There's a
yeah,
lot of issues
yeah.
to work through, but I don't
It's
see it more. I don't see the message of focusing on the individual, and I don't see the message of focusing on like everyone being one and everyone being together and everything.
yeah. I think it's kind of like entailed in that.
Hmm.
Most Indigenous people look at that and think, it's going to take more than just Indigenous communities to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure.
We need the Canadian government. We need all sorts of workers from the globally to work together to build a sustainable life on Earth for all human beings. And that all starts with healing first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, I think it's going to take time
For sure.
to, because we humans have such a little lifespan compared to the
Anything
beginning
else
of
in the universe?
beginning of time. Like we have such an insignificant timeline
Mm-hmm.
that it's hard to complete so much in your life. Like there's a lot you can do, don't get me wrong, but
But it's everything you'll ever
we
do.
have this limit because of death.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try to work every day to get to reach those goals.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love the idea. There's the actor who talked about it during his global speech. I can't remember his name, but he talked about how his hero is always 10 years away. You
Yeah, it's
know,
him.
huh?
I think this is Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
heard this clip. Yeah,
yeah. So like
he's his own hero, but it's him in the future.
yeah, 10, 25 years, like that's gonna be my hero.
Yeah,
35 at 25 is gonna be at 35, and continue. So I say these are unrealistic
I just don't
because
like hearing that self-limiting belief. I think you can do a lot more than you think you can.
I just have other expertise. Like
Fair enough.
those are my floating ideas of what I want to work towards. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a therapist who can promote positivity and show the next generation that this isn't the life that you have to live, that there's a whole another world outside of the reservation,
Yeah.
you know.
Ironically, I think your focus on like the individual and like focusing on like the connection between people
Yeah,
is actually the best way to achieve the goals that you think are so unrealistic.
yeah, well, like I said, those are like floating ideas. For me, I
Hmm.
have realistic goals. I go based off of psychologist Dr. Alder, right? He
Hmm.
has the
Smart goals,
uh
specific, measurable, achievable.
that's a
I forget what R is, but
yeah, those are for setting specific, kind of rather, I guess, specific goals. No, he's talking about like your daily life and your all-time goal, and if you had 6 months to live,
hmm.
do all three of those goals add up? Like your daily goals, whether it's making your bed or using the bathroom 3 times a day or having 2 meals, 3 meals a day.
Oh, like do your daily
Do
actions
your
compound
daily
into your long
into
term
your
goals?
long term, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
does that 6 months, if you're given 6 months to live, do those goals, what you would do in that time frame, match with either of those?
Hmm.
And bring back to congruency. The more that those three are balanced, the more the realistic of it and the reality is gonna, or it's gonna become reality.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, there's a quote I
so
love that ties exactly into this where I forget exactly how it goes, but it's like set a goal that scares you. And that's why I asked, like, what are the goals that scare you? Set a goal that scares you for 12 months from now and work as hard as you can to get there. You might not get the goal, but in 6 months' time, you'll be far ahead of everyone else who didn't even
yeah,
try to reach it.
yeah, that's very true. So like for me, if I was given 6 months to live, I can tell you now I'm not focusing on creating one nation across West Coast, and I'm not discarding that. I just
It's
mean
just too big of a
I,
thing for you
I,
to focus
I
on.
want to focus on building real, genuine connection with the people that I know now,
Hmm.
and to travel with them, see the world, be appreciative of the life that I was given. I'd rather focus on that than that kind of goal.
Yeah, but I think the
Um,
funny thing is that focusing on those connections is the best way to achieve some type of big term goal like that.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
definitely.
because connection is the most powerful tool you'll have to
Mm,
get things done in terms of like things you want to achieve or goals
yeah,
you have. Like, the best way to change other people and change the world is to change yourself.
yeah,
Not that you need to change other people like from a place of thinking you know better or whatever, but like, you know, you want people to be able to fulfill their own desires and their own like
yeah,
needs.
yeah.
And the best way to do that is to help them out by changing yourself so that you're able to show up better to help other people.
Yeah, like for me, like equality amongst all human beings is one of the most important things.
Hmm.
That's part of my one of my core values. And like that's a goal. Like you have to be realistic, right? There's a difference between having goals and having realistic goals. And the part of my goals is to see that all of the West Coast become one nation, or even just seeing equality amongst all human beings. There's
Hmm.
always going to be negative yin and yang. There's going to be people who don't want to change, and there's going to be people who do want to change. So there's always going to be different sides. And so that goal is unreachable within my lifetime, is what I'm trying to say. But realistically, I can work towards those goals to the best of my ability, and
Okay.
maybe I'll never reach them, but I'm
Okay.
always gonna chase.
Interesting.
I'm always gonna chase the guy who's 10 years away from today.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes is by Matthew.
And I have a
Uh,
similar like idea where it's like make my 85-year-old self proud and make my 5-year-old self inspired for like wherever I'm at between those two.
yeah,
But
that's
yeah, it's the
also
same type of frame,
that's still yeah. So yeah,
like zooming out.
what I'm trying to get is you have this broader goal, but you
Hmm.
have this realistic goal. So
Okay.
that there's like
Interesting.
a distinctive difference between the two. But you can always work towards that floating goal, like at the back of your mind. Like that's not one of my long-term goals. One of my long-term goals is realistic. Becoming a therapist, counselor.
Yeah, I see. I guess I was
That's
just asking about your goals that scare you for like I think a lot of your goals do seem realistic, and I was just wondering, like, what are the goals that you think you really want to do, but you're not sure if you can?
Find peace. Find peace within
That's quick.
within fully myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm not talking about just like being happy in life and being happy about who I am physically, mentally. I'm talking about like finding content peace where I I have an understanding of the universe completely, even if it's a little bit of understanding of the universe. Because like what I know
Hmm.
now is little to what I could know at the age of 100 or 90 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. I
yeah.
think the only issue with that is that I don't think there is like you can't know everything there is to know.
No, but that's what I'm scared. It's like one of the things I'm scared of. Like
Oh, you're scared that you can't know everything,
that
or
I can't find that I can't be at that part.
oh, you're scared. I'm
That
sorry.
I'll never find peace.
You're scared. Well, maybe you won't.
Yeah,
Would
and I'm
that be so
talking.
bad though?
No, I don't think so. But that's one of the things that I
I don't know if
fear.
peace is like even
Yeah, like
a thing you can reach.
if
It's
I'm
the
on.
thing you strive towards, but I don't know if it's like a destination.
Yeah, I just want to be able to. There's that idea that before you die, your brain goes through this like last minute this kind of stimulation,
Yeah,
and
you go through your life. Yeah.
yeah, doctors believe that you're flashing through your eyes. If I'm flashing through my eyes in that moment, I want to be able to look back and say I lived a life.
To
And
live without regret,
no, I'm gonna
or
die.
mostly.
I'm gonna die with regret for sure. But I lived a good life.
Okay,
That's
so that's how you would describe peace.
that. Yeah,
Okay,
that
interesting.
that I'm ready to transition into the spiritual world.
Okay, I guess I was
Yeah,
just
because like for me,
operating from a different definition of peace, because like the way I think of peace is like um what you feel when you're not worried about anything or you don't have any wants or expectations or anything, and it's like where peace is like when the only place you'd rather be is right now.
mm,
Like there's no other place you'd rather be except the moment you're in.
yeah, I guess for me, peace is like when you're ready to move on.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, and for you
it's
that's the spiritual world,
yeah,
like from this in terms of like this life.
yeah. If yeah, like the spiritual world, or if there is no spiritual world, I just want to be on my deathbed and say, I'm ready to go.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. That's one of yeah. I just fear that when I get to that moment, I won't want to go. I won't want to leave this life, and I won't want to say goodbye to all the connections I made, and I won't be ready.
You probably won't, which is that's the toughest pill to swallow of with death
Maybe
is that you maybe some people do, but you rarely ever get to a point where you're ready to go.
I just know if I'm
You
consistent,
just you want one more day.
yeah, if I'm consistently developing and working towards my own personal growth,
Mm-hmm.
I can get damn well close to getting to that deathbed and saying, I'm ready to say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's the arrival fallacy. I think everyone thinks they're working towards something so that they can get there, but really they're working towards something so they can enjoy the process of getting there because there is no end point to get to.
Yeah. I'm looking for some sort of purpose.
It's the
Yeah.
classic trite cliche. There is no destination,
Yeah.
only the journey.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it is true, and
Yeah.
there's a reason it's plastered everywhere. And it's
Yeah.
so ingrained into it's like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah.
I mean, even like tying back to the gym, you're never gonna be happy with your physique.
No.
You're never gonna be like, okay, I'm done lifting, guys. I have all the muscle I'll ever need.
Yeah.
My body is exactly how I want it to look, and I'm never gonna
Maybe.
change. That's not a point you'll get to.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you can
me in
get
two
damn
years, you can appreciate where you are and like get to a point where you don't feel the need
to
to
go.
go more and like
Yeah.
prove to yourself you can grow more muscle or you don't have that insufficiency,
Yeah.
but like you'll never finish.
Mm.
You're never gonna like me in 2 years will still want to keep working out and keep improving.
Yeah. For the guy 2 years away from you
Exactly.
now. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love that quote. It's like you're always chasing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
a bigger version of yourself. And I think I can get pretty damn well close to being happy before I die if I keep going towards the way I'm going now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And if I'm able to accomplish those broader floating ideas, like creating peace among all humans, I know damn well I'm going to die happy,
Yeah.
knowing I changed society as a whole.
I mean, hey, I wouldn't
But
say. I just, yeah, when I first heard you say that, the reason I had pushback is like, I just don't like hearing any amount of self limitation. It's like, yeah, you might think it's a crazy dream or a crazy goal, but like, it's still possible. You know how much can change in a
yeah,
lifetime. Like, yeah, residential schools have been closed for 30 years, but like, when did they start? Like in the 1800s?
yeah, late 1700s, I think.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
They were like one of the first ones was brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, that's not exactly, but almost like a lifetime worth of stuff that happened from when they started to when they finished.
Yeah.
And like a lot can change in that period of time.
Yeah. Like I said, you got to go based off of like realistic goals
Mm-hmm.
and broader goals. Like I would categorize finding equality and humanity as so far up here. And
Yeah,
a realistic goal is I'm going to change 50 people's lives,
that's
and
still quite a high goal, but yeah,
it's
it's still
still,
realistic.
but it's within realistic limit. Like
Especially if
to,
you're a therapist, yeah,
yeah,
it's
if
possible
if
for
you're
sure.
able to inspire a person 1 year of your entire life, that's 50 people right off the bat. Like if you're to
Mm-hmm.
from the age
If you
of
could do,
20 to 70, that's
if
50
you could just
years.
help someone out
Yeah.
every day, just one person.
So those are like realistic goals or within
Mm-hmm.
reasonability. And having a goal like that is just, it's a goal that I'd love to work towards, but it's something that's bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not within my own realistic capabilities.
Yeah, my only question, I think it's obviously quite aspirational, equality and peace for all of the world.
Yeah,
The only question I have is, are you talking about equality of outcome or equality of opportunity?
both. Balance, equal balance among all humans.
Hmm.
So
'Cause I don't think equality
switching
of outcome is possible.
quality of outcome.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah,
just inherently because people are different,
yeah. Well,
then they will make different choices and the outcomes will be different. And
yeah.
the only way to force an equality of outcome is to change like people's choices.
So yeah, that I'd categorize as unrealistic.
I would say it's not even unrealistic, like it's actually not possible. That's something that isn't actually possible. Unless, well, it's possible not in a good way. If you want to force people to make choices that make them equal, then yeah, you'll live. It's possible to create that society, but I don't think that's a society worth living in.
Yeah, unrealistic versus like realistic.
But I think
Yeah.
equality of opportunity is definitely something to strive for.
Uh,
Giving everyone the freedom to make the choices they want to make, as long as they're not
well,
harming others.
yeah, like I said, a lot of
Giving everyone the opportunity to do stuff.
indigenous communities, a lot of them, like especially in Atlantic Canada or over in northern BC, like they struggle with access, proper roads, access to clean drinking waters
Well, it's
and
because they live
food.
in northern BC and like the Yukon.
Yeah, but like if we were able to work together as human beings
Yeah,
to come together
like Inuit
and
peoples mainly, is what you're talking about,
uh,
or just people in like far out places.
if humanity were to come together, we were to all work
Yeah, I know.
everywhere around the world and create equality, that would be so lovely. But it's unrealistic. You can't make every nation within the world come together and say, let's not kill each other. Like if you were to tell Trump that, he'd call you a fucking idiot.
Well, the best argument for making the world a better place is that it actually helps you out. Because if you help everyone else out and everyone else is better off, you will be better off. So,
Mm,
ironically, the most selfish strategy is also the least selfish strategy.
mm, yeah,
But that's a
I guess
different
so.
topic entirely.
Yeah, so I think, if you have the ability or capability to help just one person, then you did something on this earth.
For sure.
Yeah,
It's more than most people do in their life. So if you can do that, for sure.
yeah, exactly. Especially if you save a life,
Yeah. I
like
mean,
what's more than that?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what life's about, is about connection, helping each other, and experience.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
no
very
problem.
interesting conversation. Went all over the place, but
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I know you're thinking about starting doing some written pieces soon.
yeah.
Will those be like on Substack or available for people to read? Or, I mean, I know I'd love to read them once you
Yeah,
once you work on
I'm going
some
to
of
be
them. But
posting to the Homolka website first
okay, cool.
to kind of start off to see, how it affects others.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just because, like, for
Test it
me,
out.
I have such a high empathetic intelligence, I guess. I in sympathy for others. I don't want to say the wrong thing within that thing, and if early on I say the wrong thing and a lot of people pick up on that, maybe I'm just going to put it down for a bit, try to regroup myself and
Mm.
reconstruct a whole new
I'm gonna
way
warn
of.
you against that. I totally understand where you're coming from, and it's very, you don't want to hurt people's feelings. That's very admirable.
Yeah.
You can't help people without pushing others away. That's one of the main things I've learned from content is that you will piss people off even if you're trying to help.
Hmm.
And even if what you're saying is what you think is true and what you think is right, and you're saying it in a great, very balanced, nuanced way, people are just going to take offense to it sometimes. And that is them projecting their own issues onto it.
Yeah,
So the
like.
more you worry about how you're going to say things, the more diluted your message gets.
Mm,
So I would just bite the bullet, honestly, and post it. Not to ignore criticism or ignore feedback, but like,
mm.
don't worry so much about it.
I think I am, just because how
I know
empathetic.
it's hard to
So I,
fear of
I
perception is easy to creep in for sure.
I also still haven't made either
Yeah, I
post,
know. Fair
so
enough.
I'm like I said, I'm gonna see how those first couple posts and see how people react to them.
Mhm.
And if I see such a positive reaction, then I'm gonna continue on.
They were just my 2 cents.
Huh?
That was just my 2 cents. I get where you're
Yeah,
coming from for sure.
yeah. I just want to see how people react to my first couple of writings, because I'm gonna come out strong. I'm not gonna come out
Hmm.
with like a framework on how to better yourself. I'm gonna come out like pretty hard. Like, I'm gonna be like, this is how I used to live my life, and this is how I live my life now, and here's what you can do, uh, or here's what's worked for me.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna come off strong. I'm not just gonna come in kind of weak and talk about some, I don't know.
Generic advice.
Yeah, it's gonna be community focus, all my writing.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not gonna be focusing on broader topics like the war going on in Iran or something. Like, it's not
Yeah.
going to be anything outside. It's going to be all personal growth and about my community, culture, traditions.
Personal, individual, and
Yeah, it's going to be all about that. But first, I just want to see how people react to my first couple of writings, and if it goes well, then I'm just going to keep posting and continuing. And my idea is to not um, target people or call out issues and all these other things. My idea is to give you a framework to work to better yourself.
yeah, for sure.
And I know so many different ways of going about that, whether it's religious, spiritually, physically, or mentally. Like, there's so many different write-ups that I can do on how you can help yourself.
Hmm.
So my idea is to educate people more than going out and saying, your issue within your life is because you drink alcohol. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be more like, here's what's working for me.
Yeah, blaming doesn't really help people.
Yeah, so I'm going to be like, here's what worked for me. This is how I got out of addiction. And
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and, and this has been very efficient. It's shown, It's all science based and it's all researched, proven. So it's not like it's just bullshit that I'm spitting out to you, or philosophical ideas. These are ideas that are proven to help improve other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be mostly psychological or psychology work for me,
Yeah.
just because that's what I really want to start diving more into.
Yeah.
My psychology work, and I also don't want to look back and say I did 3 years of schooling and I didn't learn anything,
Yeah.
and nor did I apply any of that learning into my life. So
Yeah.
we'll see how the first couple go.
Looking forward to it. That's the approach I try to take with my content as well. Just help people, give people like frameworks they can use for themselves, give people things that they can, like, I'm not telling you the answers. I'm giving you what's worked for me, and if it works for you too, then great.
Yeah, just because there's so many people who feel so helpless, and they feel like nobody's there, nobody's wanting to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think through content creation, I can help others feel recognized and acknowledged for who they are, and not to be put down for what they've done.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's my whole concept of what I want to post. I just don't want to target. I just don't want to say your issue is this.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the issue with drinking is this. Like, I just want to be like,
yeah,
just here's a framework. Try it out. If it don't work, don't work. There's so many different. There are thousands of different coping mechanisms. So
yeah,
I also got to do some of my own research when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, it's a great message.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sitting down with me today, and
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
Yeah. And I gotta go to your bathroom so fucking bad, buddy. Oh.